I just can't give it up. Yeah, yeah. Yes, sir. What is going on, YouTube? It is your boy D Nally, aka Don Squally, and in today's video, we are back at it with another Honda Civic to Acura CSX or JDM Civic conversion video. So if you guys have been tuned in for the last couple of months, been kind of MIA, been a little busy with family stuff and work stuff, but I did upload a couple of videos converting my R18 1.8 Honda Civic to the FD2 CDM Acura CSX. We did the full conversion, and as you guys can see, we got the SER wheels now. But ever since I uploaded this video, been getting hit up on my social sites and all that stuff, and people were asking how much this conversion costs. Now, surprisingly, you can do this conversion for relatively cheap. Now, I did the full front end as well as the rear end. I didn't do the bumper. That's still the stock Civic bumper. And I also swapped out the steering wheel for this leather with the Acura logo. Now, keep in mind, I did this conversion with all used parts. Now, if I were trying to get brand new or like mint condition or even like imports from from Japan and stuff like that, this conversion would not be this cheap. So I'm going to tell you guys how I did this on a relatively cheap budget, and I'm going to show you guys how you can do it as well. So when I started this conversion, I knew I wanted to get the FD2 front end as well as rear tail lights. Now, I could have done this cheaper if I wanted the FD1 conversion, but let's be honest, that shield grille from the Acura is just absolutely mint. I've always been in love with that. So I did have to source a lot of different parts from a few different people that were not close to me. I did have to do quite a bit of driving. But anyways, I wanted to start out with a $1,000 budget. So first and foremost, we had the rear end conversion. I had to drive about 2.5 hours to get both the tail lights as well as the trunk, but you can see we've got the FD2 octagonal tail lights here, and this is a CSX Type S trunk, so it came with this rear spoiler here. Now I paid $180 for the trunk and then another $150 for the tail lights. Now this is not a cheap rear end. I didn't get the bumper. That's still the stock 1.8 liter Civic bumper, but it looks good enough for me. I'm not really that upset about not having the bumper, but the taillights look great, especially when they're on with the LEDs, and I'm really happy to have the spoiler that came with the trunk because I was going to end up getting one of these types of spoilers anyways. A little more than I wanted to pay, but you know what? These parts are pretty tough to find, and again, if I wanted to go with the FD1, with the oval lights, it would have been a little easier to find parts and would have been cheaper, but I mean, come on, man. That looks great right there. So the next piece to the puzzle is the bumper as well as the headlights. Now these headlights are non-HID, so I didn't have to cut any wires or anything like that. And then I got the bumper here. I had to drive about 3 hours one way and 3 hours back home to get the bumper, the headlights. But luckily for me, he also had the steering wheel, so it was worth the drive. But again, with these parts, paying a premium, very hard to find. And when you drive 3 hours one way, you don't really want to be haggling with the price. I mean, let's be honest, if the guy doesn't bring his price down, I'm still buying them, right? So I ended up paying $180 for the bumper that didn't have, it had one fog light. I forget which side, but I took it out and now I'm running no fog lights. I paid $200 for the headlights, which I did just a quick polish with some sandpaper and a little bit of compound. Brought them back a little bit. They were pretty yellow when I got them. And then I paid $150 for the steering wheel and the airbag. So while doing my research, there was a couple parts on this swap that I was kind of convinced that I could use the stock parts from the Civic with the conversion. One of those parts was the fenders, which you cannot reuse the Civic FA5, I think, fenders, because the taillights come out a little bit differently at this arch here. So I did have to source a set of fenders. Luckily, these were close to home. Didn't have to drive very far for them, and I ended up paying $150 for both fenders. Again, these CSXs in Canada, when they get parted out, these parts still really do hold a premium. So with that total right there, that brings us to $1,010 in total price for all these parts. Now, the other part that I was convinced that I could use the stock OEM part from the Civic from was the hood. And as you guys can see, we still are rocking the OEM Civic hood. To be honest, since I put the G35 back on the road, this car is just kind of a spare. I'll drive this when it's raining or it's a cool day because it doesn't have air conditioning. But right now it's summertime. I'm driving and enjoying the G35. Everything's going good with that. I'll be doing an update very shortly because there was a couple things after I got it back from the dealership that I kind of had issues with. But everything's working out good with that. So this car's just kind of been sitting, and the hood hasn't really been bothering me enough. The silver hoods for these CSXs or FD2 conversions, very easy to find. They are everywhere. So I'm convinced that when I do want to find one, it'll be relatively easy to find. But in the meantime, looking at it from the front, you can barely tell. Looking at it from the side, you can't really tell. It's only right here, I think I pointed this out, where you see it dips down just a little too soon and then the grill sticks out a bit more. That's really the only awkward position for the front end here. So I'm not too worried about the hood right now, but I will probably be picking one up maybe over the winter time. So now that's all the parts that we purchased for this swap, but we did take off a lot of useful OEM parts off the car that I was able to resell to recoup a little bit of my money. So we ended up selling the stock Civic trunk for $75. Nothing special. Had the little lip that went across it from factory, and then I had the red Honda emblem. So we ended up selling that with the inner tail lights for $75. And then the front fenders, I was able to make $150 selling the OEM front fenders, which is great because, you know, I basically swapped over the CSX fenders and I broke even on those. So that was really good. I was really happy about that. The Civic headlights, we ended up selling for $100 for both of them. A little less than I would have liked to get, but I was really, you know, I don't want to be sitting on a set of Civic headlights for the next year or two. Like, it does happen. I do have a lot of parts from like the Mazda 3 that we parted out. Also the silver 2.5 Ultimate. I just got lots of parts. So we let those go for $100 for both of them. And then the stock Civic airbag, I ended up selling for $50. The steering wheel was pretty junk. It's a sponge steering wheel. It was starting to fall apart. So we just threw that. Actually, that's in the back of this Altima right here somewhere. Going to be going to the scrapyard very shortly. We're still working on the 3.5 here though. I got one more cat to take off on this thing, and that's pretty much it. She's going soon because I just need the space in here. But with all of the parts sold, I was able to make back $375 of the money that I spent to do this conversion. So that brings us to a grand total of $635 to convert my 2008 1.8 liter Honda Civic to a 2010 to 2014, I think, Acura CSX. And it looks like a Type S. Even though I don't have the Type S badge, it still has the single pipe outlet like the Type S does. And with these wheels, I mean, I get people pulling up beside me all the time trying to race me in this car, and I'm going to be honest, this thing is dog crap slow. But yeah, man, I'm pretty happy with that grand total. Like, I was able to do it for relatively cheap. And I think it just brings the overall look of this car from like a 3 or a 4. I'll put a before video. It still looked pretty decent in the before video. We'll say like a 5 or a 6 for a Civic. And then it brought it to, in my opinion, a 7 or an 8. As far as like little Hondas go. I mean, I did my best to make this car look as good as possible while keeping it OEM looking and not spending a huge amount of money. I think the next thing I might do is just put a set of lowering springs on here, maybe just to get an inch an inch lower with these wheels, I think will look pretty fire. But this video has been going on for quite a while. I feel like I've just been talking and talking, so I'll probably cut out quite a bit of stuff there and only keep the important stuff. But yeah, if you guys did enjoy this video, don't forget to smash that like button. If you guys want to see more and you're not subscribed yet, definitely do so. This is just some inspiration. I always like to do these follow-up videos. How much did it cost? To let people know, if you have the garage space, if you got the time to do the work, you can do something like this for extremely cheap. All you really got to do is you know, give a little bit of money and then input a little bit of your own time to put the parts on and then resell the stuff that you don't need afterwards. But yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. So with that being said, I'm your boy Denali, aka Don Squally, and we are gonna catch y'all mofos at the next one, man. Peace.